Okay, we are on box 5 now of the Blair Witch storyline. I can't wait to get this solved, guys. It's so freaking creepy, you know? Like, anyone else getting the heebie-jeebs? Because I'm getting the heebie-jeebs. Heebie-jeebie-jeebies. Is that a word? That's not a word. Anyway, grabbing everything out of the box. Oh, we got a little hat. Is that it? Okay. That is everything in here. This hat has stuff in it, though, I think. Yeah. Yeah, it does. What is this? Nathan's cigarettes. Put your faith in Nathan. Okay, well, we'll see what that's about here in a second. Okay. Let's set that behind me so I don't lose it. Let's see. Investigator. Wait. Is there no, like, note from the chick? Oh, right, because she's in the woods. Okay, wait. Before I get into reading everything, recap. Okay, so lady's son Liam goes missing. We find out that he's been talking to some dude named Carver who likes to carve little crazy figurines into trees when they're out hunting in the woods for children that have gone missing. And Carver lured him out there saying he could reunite him with his dead father because the woods, he may not technically be dead, kind of thing. I don't know. Weirdo, total weirdo, super creep. Anyway, he's like a hermit that lives out in the woods, and they went on a search party trying to find stuff. Weird stuff happened. And then they didn't really find anything. They found like some of his stuff, but they didn't find enough to like keep looking. And then they found out a note saying that like the carver was going to make him do something that he didn't want to do, and he was worried that he was going to force him to do it. And the thing was, he wanted him to kidnap his little brother, and now his little brother's gone missing. And in the last box, we had to figure out where his house is that he's taken them to. And the mom, like, we gave her the coordinates, and she's off in the woods heading towards Creepazoid's house, hoping to find her son's there and alive. Okay? Good recap? Great. All right, let's get into this and see what is going on now, because yikes. This is crazy. It's really crazy. Okay. Investigator. Hello, I'm just now realizing that I've never properly introduced myself to you. I'm Anthony Rapinoe, and I'm a friend of the Kent family. I need your help, or more accurately, Rosemary needs your help. That's the mom. When Rosemary left, she promised me she'd only be in the woods for a single night, as though that would be any comfort to me at all. Nevertheless, it's been far longer than that, and she still hasn't returned. I spent the past day practically turning her place upside down looking for your contact info, which I eventually discovered once I figured out the password to her laptop. Don't worry, I wasn't trespassing. After Liam disappeared, Rosemary gave me a key to her house so that I could show myself in from time to time, usually just to check on her, and sometimes to help out with the cooking and cleaning when dealing with the investigation got to be too much for her. Aww, was a nice friend. Speaking of investigations, Sheriff Laning isn't even returning my calls anymore. Over the course of the past year, an entire family has disappeared on his watch, and he just seems to want to be able to move on from it. I've been searching through the forest alone every day, and I've managed to find a number of notes that seem to have come from Rosemary, alongside a number of items and files that simply shouldn't exist. Interesting. As if that wasn't already strange enough. Great, something weirder is happening. Can't wait. In some of the papers I found, Rosemary describes hiding in an abandoned lumber mill. There used to be a lumber mill in the woods, but it was abandoned in the 1950s and demolished over a decade ago. So it's demolished and she's hiding there? What? On top of all these eerie circumstances, it appears as though someone or something has been interfering with Rosemary's personal website. There are new posts being made on it on a regular basis. I can't even tell if Rosemary has somehow managed to connect to the internet out there, or if it's not her at all, because the text itself appears to be so corrupted. Whenever I try to make it out, my vision goes blurry, and I'm overwhelmed with such a profound sense of dread that I reflexively slam my laptop shut. Maybe you'll have better luck making sense of the site. Creepy. Okay. What I've been able to make out from her notes, although it doesn't quite make sense to me, is that Rosemary seems to have written about needing to find a 5-digit code in order to progress on her journey through the woods. What, he got like a digital alarm system on this little hermit shack in the middle of the woods? What? The best and perhaps the only thing that we can do for her right now is to find the code and send it to her. I know that it's a long shot and that it's crazy to ask you to help with any of this at this point, but I'm used to being the crazy one, and if I were to hazard a guess, I'd say that you must be getting used to it too. Maybe Rosemary will still be able to receive information through her tip line at kincase.com. I have to believe she will be because it's our only hope at this point. The current password is Sticks and Stones 15. Whatever's happening out there, Rosemary is in imminent danger. There's no time to waste. Please help me see her through this. Interesting. Okay, so we have to find a digital code for something. Okay. Okay, so the next is notes from Rosemary, it looks like. No sign of my boys or of Carver, not yet. It's been slow going in the dark, but I must have traveled at least a few miles north. In the morning, I'll head deeper. For now, Tank and I have made camp. If Hud could see me struggle to set up his old tent, I'd never hear the end of it. I would not camp in those woods. Are you kidding me? You couldn't pay me. You couldn't pay me to go in those woods, let alone camp overnight in the woods. First of all, I'm not really big on camping in the woods anymore. I did it as a kid. It was fun then. It's not fun as an adult. It's gross and icky. Ugh. Tank is in his element out here. It always surprises me how quickly he takes to these woods. Never had a dog before that didn't overreact to every creak in the distance. He almost seems like he's keeping watch for me, even when I'm not holding his leash. He just sticks by my side because he knows it's scary. There's a bunch of dashes. I don't know if that's going to be something. We'll see. It started around 3 a.m. Distant voices whispering. They sounded so young. I thought of Tristan, but none of the voices were his. How many children are out here? That's creepy. Remember, that was in the movie. They'd hear like voices of children whispering and then little hands beating on the tent. Oh, God. Okay. Woo! I'm creeping myself out. I tried to call out to them, but it came out as a croak, like me right now. My voice felt trapped far back in my throat. When I was finally able to ask who was there, the voices didn't answer. Maybe they couldn't hear me. They sounded so close, though, like they were just outside my tent. No. When I unzipped the tent, the whispers faded to silence. I shined my flashlight out, but there was nothing. That's when I noticed Tank was sitting alert. He's usually such a deep sleeper, but he must have heard something too. I only just managed to get him calmed down. I'm going to try to sleep a little more and leave at sunrise. Does she not have the dog in the tent with her? Because I would. No. Oh my gosh. Just woke up and went outside to find Liam's hat placed neatly by the front of the entrance to my tent. Even though I know with total certainty that it's just Carver mocking me, I'm still holding on to it like a totem. I can feel my blood boiling inside of me. Don't know how much sleep I've gotten because of the sun still hasn't come up. The clock on my phone must be wrong. It says it's 1 p.m. Doesn't make any sense. Either way, I don't want to sleep anymore. Time to get moving. Creepy. He's trying to scare me. After I packed up camp, Tank and I walked for hours and hours. The deeper we walked into the woods, the less I could see the sky through the canopy of leaves above me. I couldn't even hear the wind. That's when we found a clearing surrounded by tall, thin trees, whose trunks were engraved like headstones. I didn't understand what all the carvings on them said, but the messages on a few of those trees couldn't be clearer. I took some rubbings of the carvings just to prove to myself that I wasn't seeing things. It's a good thing that I did, because they disappeared the moment I looked away from them. Creepy. I think he's trying to make me turn back. It's not going to happen. What would I be going back to? There's nothing there. Not anymore. Tank is exhausted. We're stopping more for his benefit than mine, though I admit it's getting to me. First Hudson, then Liam and Tristan. All my boys. Gone. When I get our sons back, I'll never take my eyes off them again. Hud, I promise. Just a little further. I know it. The voices are back. They sound closer. And then there's more dashes. The dashes have to be something. The sun isn't going to rise again. I thought it was almost dawn again. I was wrong. It's just dark now. It's just dark. More dashes. Something just tried to get in. Oh no. No. Girl, pack it up, get out of the woods. Right then and there. No. Oh no. Okay. Okay. I can do this. Something just tried to get in. I woke up to the sound of Tank barking and realized that something was dragging against the tent, scraping against the plastic. I kicked at it, but I just felt air where my boot should have connected with flesh. It stopped the scratching, though. You know that wasn't a big ass rat. Like, you know. What? Okay. Sometimes I can see my phone catch a signal for a moment, like the outside world is reaching in to pull me back. But inevitably, the bars disappear and the outside world is pushed away again. By the woods, by him, or by her. So creepy. Okay, let me see if where these dashes are. There's no hidden code or anything. So weird. That's got to be something, but I don't know what. We'll see. We'll see. Whoever or whatever he is, I don't care. I can't do this anymore. It's like my mind is playing tricks on me. I think something is out here with me, something besides Carver, watching me. It's coming closer day by day. I can hear it breathing. I don't know what it's waiting for. No, it's waiting for your flesh. Like, get out the woods. No. There are times when I can see a light through the trees, flickering, fire. Each time I've run toward it, hoping it was Carver's campfire. I lower my head and bolt, but the light always burns out just before I can reach it, like a cruel joke. It's the only light I ever see besides my own flashlight. There's no more sun anymore. There's no more. No, yeah, there's no more sun anymore. That's not proper English, but okay. No more daytime. I can't do this. No, that's enough feeling sorry for myself. I better get moving. Oh, God. Okay. Tank started growling at a bush, and when I pointed my flashlight, I saw a pale white hand with only 2 fingers, covered in blood. It looked like the hand of a drowned person, like something that hasn't seen sunlight in years. As soon as the beam of my flashlight hit the hand, it flinched away as it made this terrible groaning noise, like an angry animal and a wounded man at the same time. I ran in the opposite direction and Tank followed. That's the first smart thing she's done since she went into the woods. You find a hand that groans and screams when you flash your light on it, you run. I mean, what is she doing? That's when I found this building. It looks abandoned. I'm hunkered down in the entryway for now. The door won't open, but I think there's a window I might be able to get through. And then more dashed lines. Well, I got Tank and myself in, but I managed to cut my leg on a piece of glass that was sticking out of the window pane in the process. Thankfully, I was smart enough to bring a first aid kit. The bleeding hasn't completely stopped yet, and it hurts like HE double hockey sticks. But I think I might be okay. I think I'll be able to walk on it. I'm going to try to explore a little in a few minutes. It looks like this place used to be a logging company. There's an axe embedded in the wall, and most of the furniture has been flipped. Scorch marks on the walls and floors. I found records amongst all of the carnage. They paint a pretty vivid picture of what happened here before all of this. I suppose the woods retook this place after it was abandoned, although I do feel relatively safe in here compared to outside. But I'm going to need to move on soon. No time to waste. Okay. No, that was the okay. I managed to limp up the half-rotted stairs to the rooftop to try to get to the lay of the land. At first, I saw nothing on the horizon but trees, but then I noticed it, the light again. The flickering light of a campfire. I know where I have to go from here, toward that fire. If Tristan and Liam aren't there, they aren't anywhere. I noticed something else on that rooftop, though. It was the groaning sound of that creature somewhere in the building's perimeter. And then there was the sound of another and another. I think the building is surrounded. The only way forward is going to be through them. No, absolutely not. They're scratching at the front door and at the windows. It's making Tank go absolutely ballistic. My leg hurts. God, I wish I had a cigarette right now. They hate the light, the hand that I saw in the woods, and now these things outside. When I shine my flashlight at an area where they're scratching, they all back away from the light, and even Tank calms down a little, like he senses they're a little farther away. Oh, that's so creepy. I saw a mention of a breaker room in some of the reports, so I tracked it down. If I can manage to get inside, I'm going to flood this place with light. It might clear enough of a path for me to run straight to Carver's campfire. Thing is, the doors have been outfitted with a hefty combination lock. Nothing can ever be easy, can it? To add insult to injury, I thought I'd managed to find a pack of cigarettes right outside the breaker room, but the second I picked it up, I could tell it was empty. 5 digits. With any luck, it's hidden around here somewhere. I better get start, and then it trails off like she couldn't finish the note. Oh, creepy. What are the creatures? That's what I want to know. Like, oh, the hand was one thing, but creatures? No, ma'am. No, no, no. Okay. So we've got no hidden messages on these like weird markings, but some of it's in code and some of it is not. So I'll read to you what's not in code. See. They're losing faith in you. You're too foolish to accept fate. Your children have. Your husband has. Now it is your turn. Okay. And then everything else is the weird code that I can never figure out, so I'm going to have to go online and figure out what it says. So there will be definitely a part 2 on this. Okay. And then we have something from the timber company, so maybe, hopefully, the code is in here somewhere. 1956. This place has been shut down for a minute. I was initially called in by the state of Maryland to perform an incident analysis in the case of a worker's death at the Creekside Timber Company's Black Hills Forest facility. During my inspection, I noted concrete, widespread evidence of failure to observe basic security protocols, unsafe working conditions throughout the facility, and a pattern of wildly inappropriate behavior from nearly all of the site's employees. Gee, I wonder why it got shut down. I've also noticed some sort of hysteria affecting the workers, the psychological effects of which seem to predate the death of James Berman. Interesting. The forest made them crazy. Okay, there's 2 things in here. Okay, inspection of wood chipper. I focused much of my initial inspection on the wood chipper involved in the Creekside employee's death. A thorough examination revealed nothing faulty with the machine itself. However, during my inspection, I discovered no fewer than 7 children's handprints upon the lower third of the machine's outer body. No. Foreman John Martell claimed to have no knowledge of any children's presence and further claimed that the machine had not been touched since the accident. I found myself dubious of this claim on both fronts, as the handprints appeared to be fresh. Whatever substance they were made from was wet, vicious, and warm to the touch. No. The discovery of these handprints prompted me to search the entire facility for further evidence of the presence of children. I soon came to observe additional handprints inside the break room, foreman's office, 2 bathrooms, and most perplexingly of all, on the ceiling directly above a secretary's desk. It was at this point in my inspection when, as I looked up at the handprint on the ceiling, a rusted light fixture from very nearly fell upon my head. Had I been standing 3 feet to the left, I would have sustained a grave injury. Although the handprints covered the facility, no further evidence of the presence of children turned up during my inspection. However, the evidence of the presence of minors on the premises is irrefutable and damning. To allow young children on the premises at all, let alone near such a dangerous piece of machinery, is an unconscionable oversight on the part of Creekside management. It's not their fault. The place is, in the creepy woods. Did this guy not know about the woods? Did no one warn him about the witch? They obviously didn't. Okay, observations of psychological effects upon employees. During my inspection of Creekside Timber Co., I also observed significant and alarming abnormalities in the behaviors of its employees. On my tour with foreman John Martell, that name sounds familiar. I think he must be like in the city or something, right? I've heard that name before. I heard multiple workers whisper things to the effect of me not belonging there, that I could at least understand being in a small town, and with the recent accident, I represented the possibility of a shutdown and therefore a lost paycheck. But some of those remarks moved beyond simple hostility and into the nonsensical and unnerving. I heard one man say that I should stand in the corner, another that I would listen when she tells me to leave. I have also repeatedly observed workers behaving negligently. Multiple men appeared to be staring off into the woods while operating dangerous machinery, such as wood chippers and saws, and while swinging axes. When I approached to reprimand them for their actions, these workers all responded with slight confusion, followed by disbelief and denial that they had indeed been staring into the distance at all. I also observed one worker counting his own 10 fingers. He did this multiple times. He would seem satisfied with his number and then count again. When I asked him what he was doing, he seemed to snap out of a stupor and said, in all seriousness, I just wanted to make sure it was all still there. I bet he's the freaking hand with the 2 fingers missing. You know what I'm saying? Many of the men I spoke to over the course of my inspection seemed to have bought into a superstition about rocks of all things. They claimed to fear the appearance of small piles of stones as omens of death and injury. I happened to find one such pile just outside my own automobile as I was finishing my inspection. There were no signs of damage, simply piles of rocks outside my door, on my hood, and on my roof. I can only assume this was a pathetic attempt at a practical joke. Sorry. Oh. I can only assume this is a pathetic attempt at a practical joke by a disgruntled employee. Additionally, nearly oh man. Additionally, nearly everyone on the company's payroll reports missing time, of which there was seemingly some evidence. Mr. Martell showed me employee complaints with time discrepancies no one could understand. The time shown on the cards did not match what employees reported, nor the amount of work they were supposed to have completed in that time. Others have worked for what feels to be an entire day, but returned with no more timber than they chopped in an hour. Men shown clocking in for only 1 hour claim to have worked their entire shifts and have returned with the day's worth of wood. When I asked Mr. Martell if this discrepancy, my goodness, could be the result of human error or if he could have found himself the butt of a practical joke, he said he trusted his men implicitly. An inspection of the timekeeping machine also proved it to be in perfect working order. Presence of unknown, possibly toxic substance. I bet it's going to be the freaking goo, isn't it? Oh, yeah. Found at the Creekside Timber Cove is what many of the men have referred to as strange slime leaking from the trees. Gross. I interviewed the man who, weeks before Berman's death, first discovered the substance, a logger named Adam Barrett. That name also seems familiar. He described an incident in which he and co-worker Simon Donner came across trees that were, to his word, bleeding. By his account, 8 separate trees in the same vicinity discharged this substance in a place of sap. Barrett and Donner then marked any affected trees with red X's. The men could not replicate this phenomenon for me. They brought me to the allegedly affected trees, and observing the proper safety protocol, proceeded to peel back the initial layer of bark, only to find regular sap. I watched them cut into every marked tree, only to find nothing out of the ordinary. The men did, however, claim to have kept some of this dark mucus-like material in a jar and produced it from the safe in the foreman's office. The loggers all insisted it came from one of the trees they attempted to cut down, but to me it smelled a little more than scorched engine oil. Conclusion. For the reasons herein compiled, this is my conclusion that the Creekside Timber Company should immediately cease all present and future operations at their Black Hills Forest facility until such a time that a more thorough analysis of both the building and employees can be completed and safe reopening can be confirmed. I will be sending copies of my recommendation to all pertinent state officials as well as to the company itself. Interesting. So the men at the logging company in the middle of the woods were certainly affected by everything. That's crazy. Hang on, I just realized that my phone was charging and suddenly it's not. The charger fell out of the thing. Okay. I don't know why my charger like falls out really easily. Okay. Now we're on to incident reports. Category: violence. Filer: John Martell, May 4th, 1956. Loggers Daniel Calder and Edward McCune engaged in a vicious fist fight today during their lunch break. When I can recount what I saw of the fight, that Mr. Calder stormed into the lunchroom and, seemingly unprovoked, attacked Mr. McCune. The fight quickly escalated, and the onlookers certainly did not help. We have had fights here before, but this particular altercation was remarkably vicious, with both men sustaining severe bruising, multiple cuts, and several deep bite marks. Who bites in a fist fight? Come on. Well, I guess Mike Tyson does. Never mind. Mr. Calder also appears to have cracked a rib and has lost 4 of his teeth. I was pulling the 2 men apart. I could hear Mr. Calder shouting at Mr. McCune that he needed to stop talking about the children, that she could hear everything that he said, and that he didn't want to draw her attention. Both men were sent home to cool off, and their pay has been docked for the day. Weird. Okay. Incident report. Category: trespassing. Filer: Henry Kent. Date: May 16th, 1956. I noticed evidence of trespassing in the lodging area while doing normal rounds just before sundown. I investigated a series of scuffling noises that began inside the mill and moved outdoors. I pointed my flashlight into the woods so I could see nothing with its beam. The noises continued. What began as a low rustling I might have mistaken for raccoons, to me seemed to change into something resembling muffled voices. Taking one of the high-powered equipment lights in an attempt to frighten off any potential trespassers, I shone it in the direction of the North Hill, where I caught temporary sight of the intruder. I glimpsed the intruder for a moment and saw only a large, pale person. At the distance I saw him, I couldn't tell if he was wearing tight, skin-toned clothing or if he was nude. He was, however, moving incredibly fast at the crest of the North Hill. The being ran over the hill and further into the woods. Got a naked man running around in the woods. Okay. Category: vandalism to company property. Filer: John Martell. June 18th, 1956. Amelia Hooper came running into the mill from her lunch break, which she had taken in town, and reported to me that someone had vandalized every single car in the mill's parking lot. I followed her out to the lot and found that she was right. Every single car and truck in the lot was covered bumper to bumper in dents the size of baseballs, and there was glass all over the gravel, and around every car were small stones. It's conceivable that someone could have wound up a good pitch and dented metal with rocks of those size, but who could have done it? Who could have been and when? Even with all the machinery going, someone would have noticed. There were always men working near the front of the building, which is filled with windows. I even found a few who said they were right before Amelia came in, and they didn't see or hear a thing. Strangely, though, there was one pile of rocks that had been stacked perfectly right in front of James Bourbon's car. What a thing. Creepy. Okay. Category: witness report. Filer: John Martell, June 18th, 1956. Dictated from the verbal testament of Edward Daniels. Thanks for taking this down, Mr. Martell. I don't know if I could. So anyway, James was there, right next to Henry. Henry Kent. That's Liam's dad. Okay, so now we're going to find out, like, the weird incident that happened in the woods. Oh, you guys. Okay, James was there, right next to Henry. Henry Kent, when it happened. He looked kind of shell-shocked, James. I don't know if anything brought it on. I just happened to be carrying another axe down to Adam. I saw James out of the corner of my eye just standing there. I didn't know what he was up to as something was happening, but he looked off into the woods. It seemed like he was listening to something. I saw him do this little nod, and then James just jammed his right arm straight into the chipper and kept pressing it in. Oh my God. He just kept pressing it further and further down, even when a few of the men grabbed onto him and tried to pull him away. He'd mangled his arm almost up to the shoulder by the time someone had the wherewithal to switch the damn thing off. Great thinking, guys. He tried to help stop the bleeding, but he just kept struggling and yelling something about doing what's asked of him. He bled out just before the ambulance arrived. It happened at 3 o'clock on the dot. Did you notice? Look at your watch. Every clock in this place stopped working the second his hand hit those blades. That's weird. Okay. Incident report, category employee health, filer John Martell, June 25th, 1956. Dictated from the verbal testament of Adam Barrett. I've been having dreams about Jane's death almost every single night since it happened. Dreams where I could always hear a man calling for help from somewhere in the forest. Maybe it's James. I can always hear him screaming, and even though I can't see him, I somehow know in my heart that he's trapped underneath a gigantic white tree. There's that tree again. Sometimes in these dreams, I run into the forest to find him, but no matter which direction I go, I never can. And whenever I wake up from one of these dreams, I always find leaves and sticks in my bed, like I've been sleepwalking. Except my feet are never dirty. And listen, I don't know what this might seem like something I shouldn't be coming to you about, John, but we worked together for nearly 10 years, and I need someone to know that lately I haven't just been hearing this screaming in my dreams at night. I've been hearing it in the distance whenever I go out in the woods. None of the other men can hear them. Nobody will go out to look for where they're coming from with me, and there's no way in hell I'm going out there alone. So I've just been going about my work day after day, trying to ignore the screaming. I've got to tell you, I'm nearly at the end of my rope. It's not just the screaming. I've been seeing body parts everywhere over the past few weeks, and nobody else can see them. Severed arms laying on the ground when I'm outside, seared fingers floating in my coffee. Sometimes I look down and see my own hands falling off as though they're gangrenous, and then I blink and they're fine again. Last night I dreamed that my right thumb, forefinger, and middle finger were collected by a creature that was as pale as a corpse. I thought that it might have been James since it was wearing his clothes, but I couldn't tell for sure because his face had rotted off. The other boys are dreaming about things like that too. They don't say it aloud, but I can tell from how quickly they change the subject when I try to tell them about my own dreams. Maybe they're seeing things during the day too and just won't admit it. I can't be the only one losing my mind around here. That's creepy. So I wonder if he's the guy that had the two fingers. Man, okay. Category reprimand. Filer John Martell, July 2nd, 1956. Edward McCoon was discovered in the late evening setting fire to various areas of the lumber mill. I had forgotten something at the mill, and when I entered the building, I discovered McCoon pouring gasoline onto a table and holding a lighter. I moved to confiscate both the gasoline and the lighter immediately, and he did not resist. I started pressing him about his actions, and he just calmly asked me to help him. He said he was doing his part to keep the boys safe, and that he was almost finished, but that he had one more fire to set before the building was safe. I realized the implication of his statement and immediately began to run through the building. When I found and began stopping out the first fire, which was thankfully relatively small, McCoon became angry. He tried to physically prevent me from extinguishing the flames. And then, when it became clear that I could overpower him, he tried to beg me to leave the fires burning instead. At that point, I decked him square across the face and he passed out. I left him on the ground and continued to check the building for fires. All in all, I managed to find and put out 4 separate fires in total. Wow. Once I was sure the building was safe, I found McCoon again. He was right where I had left him, though he had regained consciousness. He seemed unfazed, even offered to provide any explanation for his activities. It's not safe out there in the dark, Johnny. I was just trying to make it so the boys could go to work in the morning. You know, if we let it stay dark in here too long, they're gonna creep in. Oh, creepy. When I asked him specifically what it was he was trying to prevent, he seemed unable to put it into words. He was only able to tell me it was something related to the woods. It practically goes without saying, but I, of course, terminated McCoon's employment and reported him to the police for arson. Okay. So, there's those. Now, we did have the hat and the cigarette case. I wonder. Aha! There's paper in the cigarette case. What will we find in here? Another note. Okay. And some code. Interesting. I can hear those things at night, slinking around, scratching up against the walls, moaning like dying men. They want us to know that the only thing keeping them out is the light. If anything ever happens to the breaker room, if the power ever goes out, then that's it. We lose the only thing that keeps them away at night, and then they'll get us like they got James. They called it an accident in the official report, but we all know that isn't true. I can hear their screams when I'm out there, the people who have died, and who are dying, and who haven't died yet, and who will never die. Ripples through time stuck in a place, like the rings of a tree. James is one of them now. Maybe he always has been. Everything's all mixed up, even my brain. I can't remember my life before I walked into this forest. I can't remember the faces of my brother and sister, and I can barely tell when I'm awake or when I'm dreaming anymore. The fear is too much. The sound of their scratching at the window panes and her whispering in my ear. Oh, creepy. But all that matters is that I remember the 5 numbers. As long as I follow 5 steps, I'll always be able to reach the light. Okay. So it looks like there's 5 steps here, but it looks like the words are just like jumbled. So it's the trees that bleed like wounded men. Okay, the trees that bleed like wounded men. Um, Adam lost as much as the, what is that? Okay, Adam lost as much as, I'm not sure. Something with asleep. Fell asleep. When he fell asleep. Something about when he fell asleep. Okay. Adam lost as much as the, it's not deposit. It's like PPTOSDE. I have to unscramble that, and I don't know what that unscrambles to. And then LKCOC. When did Adam fall asleep, though? That's okay. Okay. 3s. Three something in numbers. The something with a capital H. Needs to be I have a feeling I'm gonna have to go online. I'm trying, y'all. He lit to keep them away. Okay. Fires he lit to keep them away. 1 week before the something was something. All right. let's go back to working conditions thing. Because it was, okay, handprints. Guy counting his fingers. Okay. So Adam was the one that found the trees that were bleeding. There's definitely something about someone falling asleep, though, like Adam falling asleep. I'm getting little messages from like scams or something. Let me just block these for a moment. Sorry. I don't know what they're trying to advertise, but not on my live. No, no. Okay. So Daniel and Edward got a fight. Naked man running over the hill. That's not anything that's going to help us. Okay. And James. I wonder if 3 o'clock is going to become like a important thing. Okay, so Adam was the one that had the weird nightmares. So maybe that's something about when he fell asleep. So Adam lost as much as the blank when he fell asleep. What did he lose when he fell asleep? Okay. I'm like rereading this really fast. Gigantic white tree, run into the forest, always wake up with leaves and sticks in my bed, but his feet are never dirty. And hearing this screaming. No one else hears it. No one wants to go looking. He's been seeing body parts. He sees his hands falling off. Okay. Right thumb, forefinger, and middle finger were collected by a creature that was as pale as a corpse. Okay, so 3. Adam lost as much as whatever when he fell asleep. He lost 3 fingers in his like daydreams or whatever. I don't know if that's what it's talking about. Okay, so the trees that bled like wounded, whatever. How many trees was that? Okay. 8 separate trees. Okay, so step 1 is 8. So 8, 3. Let me find a pen. We're getting somewhere, guys. We're getting somewhere. Okay, so 8, 3. And then 3's. Was it? It's not stronger. 3's strengthen in number, maybe? STREG. Yeah, okay. 3's strengthen in number. 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 No, because that has two E's. Doesn't it? Yeah, strength N. Yeah. It's definitely threes something in numbers. It's a capital H, so it's H something. HNA. Okay. There's two vowels, H and then A and E. No, not harmer. Needs to be something to light the way. Something about lighting the way. Okay. Okay, all the fires he lit to keep them away. That would be in the incident report. Okay. Four separate fires in total. Okay. So the fourth is 4. 1 week the something was something. Okay, so it's 8, 3, something, 4, something. I figured out 3 of them. But I'm not sure what this last. Okay, 1 week before the something was something. One week before the something was something. I don't know what it is. Okay. Let's go back to the incident reports because there were dates there, right? Okay, 1 week before what was the I don't think it's the trespassing. And I don't think it's about the cars being vandalized because none of the words look like vandalizing. Would it be inspector? No, it's not inspector. I realize this must be like the most boring part. I'm so sorry, guys. Okay, we already covered the slime leaking from the trees. Okay. I think I managed to solve 3 of the codes. I'm gonna have to look up and see exactly what these things are and solve it. So, gonna look that up, and I'm gonna look up what the coded writing on the rubbings that she took was, and we'll see if there's anything about these dashes on her notes that she left for us because I feel like that's got to be something, but nothing was there, like no invisible ink or anything like that. So I will have a part 2 and I'll let you guys know what happens.